Hi, I'm Flo Hale, and this is Arts Alive, etc. Well, today is really going to be an interesting show. I have with me Dr. Barton H. Schoenfeld, who is a cardiologist, but we're not going to be talking about the heart today. We're going to be talking about something that's very close to his heart, which is the Citizens Climate Lobby. And we're hearing so much over the years about climate change. This is happening, that's happening. And this particular organization was founded in 2007. And Dr. Schoenfeld, how did you get involved, and brief us on what's happening?
Well, thank you. First of all, I really want to thank you for having me here.
Oh, my pleasure.
And,
thank you.
I truly appreciate it. I know Citizens Climate Lobby appreciates it as well. I got involved in climate issues a few years back when I started. I guess it's probably when my grandchildren were born.
Oh, my.
And
yeah.
I started to worry about what kind of world they were going to be living in the future. I got quite concerned because I do have a scientific background. I went to RPI and I have backgrounds in biology and in physics, and I realized that as gases like carbon dioxide accumulate in the atmosphere, they form a warming blanket around the Earth, and ever so gradually the Earth is warming, and this has been going on since the Industrial Revolution. I became very depressed about it because I realized that this is going to be a serious issue in the future. It's starting to become a serious issue now with the extreme weather events we're having that are causing all that economic damage and stress on our economy. And as you probably know, the Lancet Commission, which is sponsored by one of the prominent medical journals in the world, came out with a report last June that describes global warming as the probably the major global health opportunity of the 21st century, because there's so many issues that are going to be going on affecting our health related to this.
Now, besides the Industrial Revolution and all that, I know that here in upstate New York we've had a lot of cement plants and things like that, which have caused problems with people's health. How can the ordinary citizen say to their congressperson or their senators, look, we want you to do something. Let's not mess around anymore. This is harming our health. It's harming our children's health. And what can we do? And at the same time, how can we create other jobs to take the place of some of the jobs that may disappear? Don't you think it's our responsibility to do that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that's what I love so much about this Citizens Climate Lobby organization. It's grown so much since its inception, and now we have probably 20,000 members across the country and internationally.
Yeah.
And the organization is a very positive thinking group. There's no jumping up and down and waving flags and pointing fingers. We believe that politicians don't create political will; they respond to it. And we, as members, are trained in how to speak with our legislators and how to encourage that political will. And we actually do lobby our congressional representatives. We do that in district and in Washington. And we create all kinds of media. We have handwritten letters to our congressmen. We publish op-eds, letters to the editor, and we do a lot of outreach to raise public opinion. We believe in forming relationships. We form relationships with our legislators. We don't just have a meeting with them and then go home and say thank you.
Yeah, right.
We have a meeting and say, What do you think of this? What are your questions? How can we help you? What information do you need to help us proceed along the path that we know is going to help our country? And they respond very nicely to that. We also ask them, who do you work with on the other side of the aisle? And we try to help them form connections. So it's a very positive organization. We have it's bipartisan. We have Democrats and conservative Republicans working with us.
Let's get to the health issues of these things. Do you think that children that are growing up now, and some of the women that are pregnant, that are breathing the air that we now have, is this going to be affecting our future generations?
Well, I have to say it's affecting us right now.
Well, yeah, believe me. I mean, I can understand that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's a great question again, but all this use of coal, oil, gas does. We all know that they put pollutants into the environment, and they put pollutants into the air. Now, the carbon dioxide that's emitted is not it's not a direct health threat, but there are also oxides of nitrogen, oxides of sulfur that increase the incidence of asthma and cardiovascular disease. And there are also what we call the fine particulates, which also contribute greatly to asthma and heart disease hospitalizations. And there's a lot of background data about that. These pollutants also increase the risk of cancer. Citizens Climate Lobby has a great solution, and it's really it's very simple. It's a small market solution that involves simply putting a price on carbon at the point of entry into our economy, whether it's the mine, the well, or the port of entry. And that price is, you could call it a tax or you could call it a fee, rises each year. And, of course, we would expect prices of energy to rise, prices of products to rise. But the great part about the Citizens Climate Lobby plan is that all of this money that's collected would be refunded to American households. And that would actually cover for the majority of our population, would either cover the costs of these rises in prices, or some people would actually profit. This is a small market solution. It appeals to Republicans because there are no specific government subsidies. It's not big government. We commissioned a study, a large-scale economic modeling study from a nonpartisan organization. Actually, it started out that we wanted to see how bad this would be for us. But it turned out that over the course of 20 years, it would reduce carbon dioxide emissions to about 50% of 1990 levels. It would create 2.8 million jobs, and it would add over $1 trillion to the GDP. So this is not a bad thing. This is a great economic solution to create jobs. How
would the ordinary person get involved? Would they go to the website www.citizensclimatelobby.org? Would they be able to get information there?
Well, I was going to bring that up, so thank you again. If you go to that website, www.citizensclimatelobby.org, you will get a lot of information about the group, about the goals of the group, and also there's a little sign where you can click join or join us, I believe it says. And by entering a little bit of information, you could get the monthly newsletter. You could register support. You could get an invitation to your local chapter. Now, don't forget, this is a national organization, and we have groups in almost every congressional district in the country. And you would get an invitation to our weekly introductory call that would explain a lot more about what we do.
Yeah, I think that before we went on the air, I was telling you that I was doing some theater work in Pennsylvania years ago, and it was near a mining town, Nanticoke, Pennsylvania. And in the middle of Nanticoke was this huge mound of coal that you could actually see it was still igniting or something like that. And the town had a terrible odor. And it was a company town. It was owned by the coal miners, the company that owned it. And so many of the people there were ill. And I used to see the children, and they'd be coughing. And I'm going back to like 1949, 1950. And nobody looked like nobody was taking care. I mean, I think we've come a long way since then. But I think there are still things that are going on where we're not taking particular notice how we as adults and as children are being exposed to things that are toxic.
Yes, I probably should mention I'm a member of Physicians for Social Responsibility as well, and I'm on the working executive board of the New York State Physicians for Social Responsibility, and we're quite concerned about toxics. I think many people are unaware or tend to downplay the effect or the role that these things have in our environment. But there's no question that a lot of the cancers that are happening today are related to things like mercury and the polychlorinated biphenyls and benzene that are all coming out of the extraction of coal and oil and gas. So the health advantages of transitioning to a cleaner energy economy are dramatic. Part of this economic modeling study showed that hundreds of thousands of premature deaths would be avoided by simply transitioning to renewables.
When I did a little bit of homework here and went on the internet, I found out that all of this climate change is affecting our plant life. So many things are dying off. Our bees, which really feed us, because if our bees aren't, doing what they're supposed to do, we're losing a lot of our plant life. And I think our food chain is going to be disrupted by climate change because it's coming little by little.
Well, I'm not a botanist, and I can speak about things that I do know, and I certainly don't know too much about bees, although I have
neither
heard.
do I. Try to stay away from them, but
but there's no question that there are changes in our in our agriculture, and there's a lot of concern that over the next I should say sometime during the next century, we're going to lose probably maybe 10% of our capacity for food production globally because of changes in weather patterns, because of extreme weather, because of droughts in some places where droughts did not used to be, and because of floods in other places.
Well, that kind of brings me to the point where if there's going to start to be a shortage of food in some years to come, they may do what they did in China for years. Families, a husband and wife, were not allowed to have any children, or else they were only allowed to have one, to keep down the population because of the shortage of food. And that's a very possibility if there's going to be a shortage of food, where they're going to try to control the population.
Well, I don't think that people are going to be too happy about that, and probably especially in the United States.
They weren't that happy about it in China, but who knows what's going to happen. I always say that anything is possible. I just leave myself wide open for the doors to come in and say, look, this is You didn't think that was possible 5 years ago? Ho, 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 look what's happening, you know?
Well, I think what along those same lines, though, rather than population control, I think what will happen and what is happening now is a concern for global security. Mm-hmm. Because when people don't have enough to eat, they get angry. And they're susceptible to outside forces and to promises and to coercion that, hey, if you do what we say, then you're going to get what you want, or you're going to have enough to eat, or you're going to be able to feed your children, or we're going to take care of your health. And you could see some of that in what happened in Syria. Now, again, I'm not a national security expert, but we do, Citizens Climate Lobby does have a national security expert on its advisory board. And the Pentagon has actually called climate change a major global security risk. What happened in Syria was that there was a 5-year drought, which has a lot of the fingerprints of climate change on it. Mm-hmm. Impoverished farmers who could not make a living came to the city, where the cities became overcrowded. There was a weak government, and they were open to the suggestions of groups like ISIS. Mm-hmm. And the Pentagon believes that had a lot to do with a lot of the unrest in the Middle East at this point. So the reason for worrying about climate change is the reasons are so multifactorial. It affects our health, it affects our economy, it affects national security. I mean, I could go on and on.
Well, I think that, you hit it right on the head. When people are hungry, or when people are concerned about their children, they will go towards any group or any person that promises them some sort of security. And I think that that's what happened over there. If you see your children starving, somebody knocks on your door and says, "Hey, come join us. We have the answers. We have all the solutions." That can happen. And the thing also that gets me too is that I'm always concerned about our country, where I still can't figure it out, why there are so many children in our country that are hungry. Whether it has to do with climate change, whether the husband or the mother had a job that was connected with something in a factory that had to close because of emissions and things like that. So it's a circle, because everybody is affected by it.
Well, yeah, of course, hunger is a horrible thing, and I think that brings us to a whole nother conversation. And it's certainly, I don't think you can connect at this point hunger and climate change in this country.
Not yet, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, although in other parts of the world, I believe that it is happening.
Oh, sure, but look what happened in the 30s.
Yes.
With the dust storms and everything. Those people were starving and had to try to get out. And I grew up in the 30s. And so I remember people, as a little kid, people talking about there's a riot here, there's a riot there, because people are trying to break down walls to get jobs. People are screaming, about food and things like that. So it's, I have kind of a little personal connection of seeing those things happen, and it's scary. It is truly scary.
I think we have to be very careful about connecting specific weather events with climate change. Mm-hmm. And
good point. I'm so glad that you said that.
But I can't, certainly I'm not familiar enough with the meteorological conditions around the time of the Dust Bowl. And I think that even in the 30s, we were certainly not at the level of atmospheric CO2 that we are now.
True.
Right now, we've exceeded 400 parts per million. And our goal actually should be much less than that. Mm-hmm. Some people have set a goal of 350. We should probably be lower. As you know, that as I said, the carbon dioxide acts as a warming blanket around the Earth. It's not the only greenhouse gas. Methane is very important too, and I guess I should mention that because methane is it's a great component of our quote unquote natural gas revolution. Methane is over 80 times as potent as carbon dioxide as a greenhouse gas.
Have the cars been able to cut back their emissions, do you think? Has that gone far enough?
Well, it's cutting back emissions is important. I'm not familiar with the regulations, although I do know that the regulations regarding mileage or miles per gallon for the newer cars keeps getting stricter. And I think there are regulations regarding trucking now as well.
But you see these trucks with all of the stuff coming out of the back, and if you're behind that truck and you try to close the windows, you're still inhaling all of that. I'm a firm believer in trying to perfect electric cars. I think if they can really get that down, and instead of having gas stations, have electrical stops where you can recharge.
Well, they're coming, and they're here actually. They're extraordinarily
not to a great extent,
extraordinarily expensive. I know that Tesla has developed what they call their Model 3, which is I won't say that's the it's not available to the general public. I mean, the cost after rebates is still going to be probably around $35,000, but you can get 200 miles on a charge. You will be able to get that, and the cost of charging it in terms of electricity is going to be about $5.
I think eventually they will be able to get it down to a point where it's
that's part of the CCL plan as well. That steadily rising fee on carbon is going to send a message to to all industries that they need to become more efficient. That products that work on renewable technology are going to be needed in the future, and as these things come out and get mass produced, the price will go down, so that there's going to be a point where all of these products are going to be less expensive than products that run on gas and oil.
Right. Excuse me, doctor.
Sure.
Okay. Do you believe now? You see, you survived the interview. We're down to our 3-minute closing statement here.
Right.
So I just want to and thank you for the use of the glasses. I forgot my reading glasses, but the doctor had an extra pair. You go to www.citizensclimatelobby.org. And for all of you parents out there, this is really very important, because your children, your grandchildren, you want them to grow up in an atmosphere that they can take a deep breath outdoors, see the green trees, and what do they say? The parents always want a better life for their children than they have. So this is something to do, and it doesn't cost anything to throw your support. Go to your congressman, go to your state legislators, because this is very, very important. Okay, just very quickly, let me tell you about the Greene County Council on the Arts, 398 Main Street in Catskill. Please remember to stop and see the show, and then go upstairs to the gift shop. They have some wonderful gifts up there that you don't find anyplace else. And don't forget to go to the Bridge Street Theater. Go to the bridgestreet.org, Catskill, and bridgestreet.org. That's it, and you'll find out what's happening at the Bridge Street Theater. And the Ghent Playhouse, I just saw a wonderful play there, The Weir, and it was absolutely sensational. And please call for tickets, 800-838-3006, 800-838-3006. The next show at the Playhouse is going to be Boeing, a great comedy. I've never seen a bad show at the Ghent Playhouse, and I've never seen a bad show at the Bridge Street Theater. So please, in the meantime, thank you again, Doctor, and to all of you, goodbye. Take care.
Oldies 93.5.